it is critical. As chiropractors, we want to look at your posture. We want to look at, is your posture properly balanced? If you've got a dropped shoulder on one side, it's going to cause stress on the spine and nervous system over a period of time. So how can that develop? Could be developing from leaning always to one side, carrying heavy bags on one side. It can come about from a whole host of problems. So let's step back and look at this thing called subluxation and see how it ties in with your overall family. The word broken down, that's a big word. It's a word you're going to hear more of in the future. Sub means less than, lux means light or energy, and ation means a condition. So what that means, it's a lowered energy state in your body. And when you have a lowered energy state, do you have good energy, or do you have lowered state of energy where your body's not healing? You can have this develop over a period of time and not even be aware of it. So the very first process we got to look at is right from the very, very beginning. We take care of women during their pregnancy because as a woman starts to develop the baby in the front, it causes their back to become hyperextended, and it puts pressure on the nerves. These nerves could go to the vital organs, to the baby that's developing. They go to the vital organs for the mother, and they also put pressure on the nerves that go down into the legs. So we make sure that we make very precise adjustments and alignment of the spine, the hips, and the pelvis. And what that does is it reduces the chance of back labor when a woman starts to deliver. So as the woman starts to deliver, if their spine is better alignment, the nerves and the muscles are going to be working with them rather than against them. And women can have this thing called a back labor or back spasm that what that does, it leads for them to end up having some sort of a injection or shot for the pain. And we want to make sure that your body is in the best alignment possible. So here, the baby comes into this world, comes through the birth canal, and the baby can be pulled upon with up to 90 pounds of stress on the nervous system. All this tugging and pulling upon the neck, and stresses on the uppermost part of the neck is the number one reason why children cannot develop properly. These nerves, that's right where the brain and the spinal cord hook together, and if you think of 90 pounds of stress on an adult, tugging and pulling and stretching upon these nerves, the circulation up into the brain. Dr. Taubman, who worked with the SIDS Institute, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome, found that over 90% of the children that died from SIDS had a subluxation, a misalignment, and a hemorrhage of the artery at the uppermost part of the neck. So a lot of hospitals now around the country are having chiropractors checking children right after the birth process to make sure, is the spine in proper alignment? There are very specific things that can be checked. Let's just say that the baby comes into this world and they have some sort of tugging and pulling upon the neck. Other aspects that Dr. Taubman found is children's, some forms of cerebral palsy can actually come about from stress on the spinal cord and the brain during the birth process. Now let's just take it over. The baby is delivered and it seems to be normally healthy. Okay? But what happens is about 6 weeks afterwards, the baby continues to have stomach or digestive problems and is colicky. The nerves in the uppermost part of the neck go down to the stomach, and this baby is not properly digesting their food, so they become colicky. I've found this out firsthand with my daughter. I was actually in chiropractic college, didn't understand that, and 6 weeks of colic and taking her to a chiropractor that focused in on children and pediatrics, he found that the uppermost part of the neck had some trauma. I was there as the coach, seeing the process for my second daughter, and all the stresses upon the nervous system, I didn't realize how bad that was as far as affecting her nervous system. And I was actually a chiropractor. I was in my residency making sure that I was there to be as the coach for my wife, but I didn't realize how much stress was being put upon the baby. So that's why children should be checked at least 6 times in their minimum the first 12 months of their life. Right after the birth process, when they can start to raise their head, when they start to sit up, when they can crawl, when they can stand, and when they can walk, because that's when the curves are properly developing it and working like they're supposed to. So newborns need to be checked. And what about kids? You know, you see them and they're getting into contact sports at a very young age. So they're pushing and tugging. They've got karate, they've got martial arts, they've got soccer, they've got baseball. They're sliding into the different bases, and it causes their spine to shift. And unfortunately, unless we have a we're bleeding or have some sort of injury, we sometimes think that nothing happened. But dis-ease happens from the inside out. It allows your nervous system from a trauma or an impact to be shifted. It causes your spine to put pressure on these delicate nerves, and then over a period of time we cause a weakening of the whole body's response and the nervous system in the healing process. Now, when we get into those teenage years, they say that most teenagers, 90% teenagers, will be in a car accident. And if you're in a car accident, the force and the trauma causing the neck to shift backwards and forwards. They did studies at UCLA, and they found that literally a 10-mile-an-hour crash can cause weakening of the ligaments that hold the spine stable, stretching of the nerves, shifting and compressing of the spine itself. And they go to the emergency room, and they get checked out, and they say, well, nothing's broken. They may even take x-rays and say there's nothing wrong, everything looks okay. But if they looked at the proper alignment of the spine, the proper movement of the spine, they would realize that there was that misalignment, that subluxation, putting endangering stress on the spine and nervous system. And then weeks and months go by, and then the person starts to develop problems. If the uppermost part of the neck is affected, they might start to develop immune system problems. They start to get sick more often. They start to develop some headaches or dizziness or ringing in the ears. And they start to develop some digestive problems because those nerves go down to vital organs. The uppermost part of the neck is the most critical level of the entire nervous system. These areas actually affect the respiratory system. So a person might start to have problems with their respiratory system.